Today, we're diving into what I think is a hidden superpower in the business world, procurement. Now, it's not just about buying stuff. It's really the art and science of how companies get absolutely everything they need to operate, from the simplest paperclips to massive jet engines. Let's get into it. I mean, really think about that for a second. How on earth does a company build something as ridiculously complex as a jet or a skyscraper? Well, the answer to these huge questions, and even smaller ones, like just getting the right coffee for the office, it all comes down to this one fascinating discipline. It's so much more than buying. It's about making really smart, strategic choices that can literally make or break a company.
All right, so to really wrap our heads around modern procurement, we kind of have to shift our thinking. It's so easy to just write it off as some back office thing, but the real power, the real magic is in its strategic potential. So let's start by tearing down that old school view. For most people, this is what comes to mind when you say procurement. You know, the simple transactional stuff. The company needs pens, so somebody goes and buys pens. And look, that's essential, of course, but it's kind of like playing checkers when you really should be playing chess. The real power comes from a much, much more strategic game. And this is the heart of it. The actual goal here is to give your company a real, lasting edge over the competition. It's about using every single purchase, I don't care if it's a multi-million-dollar machine or a box of paper clips, as an opportunity to get stronger, faster, and way more efficient.
So how do you actually do that? How do you turn the simple act of buying something into a competitive weapon? Well, it starts with this simple but honestly brilliant framework. It helps you sort everything you buy into different buckets so you can focus your energy where it truly matters most. Okay, first thing you have to ask is, how much does this item really matter to our bottom line? So think about a car company. The rubber for the tires, that has a huge profit impact. It's a big chunk of the cost, and its quality directly affects the safety and performance of the car. That's what we mean by profit impact. And then the second question you have to ask is, how hard is this thing to get? Let's stick with our car example. Standard screws are super easy to find. Dozens of suppliers have them. That's a low supply risk. But a custom-designed microchip, that might only come from a single factory in the entire world. That makes it a very, very high-risk item. See? That's supply risk. And here's where it gets cool. When you put those two ideas together, profit impact and supply risk, you get this amazing strategic map. Down here in the bottom left, you have your non-critical items like office supplies. Low risk, low profit impact. The goal there is just to be efficient. But look up in the top right. Those are your strategic items, things like the jet engines for an airplane. High risk, high profit impact. Each of these 4 boxes needs a totally different strategy, and figuring that out, well, that's where the magic happens. Okay, so once we know how to sort all our purchases, we can start thinking about how we actually manage our relationships with the people we buy from, our suppliers. And this is where we see another massive shift in thinking, away from just haggling over price tags and toward building real, powerful partnerships. This slide really shows a fundamental change in mindset. The old way was basically a constant battle. You were trying to squeeze every last penny out of your suppliers in a short-term deal. It was always a win-lose game. But the strategic approach, it's all about collaboration. It's about building long-term partnerships where your suppliers actually become allies, helping you innovate and get that competitive edge. It's a true win-win situation. But of course, for any of this to work, whether it's a simple transaction or these deep partnerships, you need a solid foundation. And that foundation is built on a set of rules that everyone agrees to play by. We're talking about contract law. You know, at its very core, a contract that's actually going to hold up has 3 key pieces. First, there's an offer, a clear proposal. Then there's an acceptance of that offer. And finally, there's what lawyers call consideration, which is a fancy word that just means both sides are giving up something of value. It could be money, goods, services, whatever. These 3 pillars are basically the bedrock of global commerce. They make sure promises are kept. All right, now for a really powerful technique that takes procurement to a whole other level. It's called value analysis, and it is all about finding hidden savings by looking way beyond the price tag and really understanding the true function of what you're buying. This whole process shows a brilliant shift in thinking. Instead of asking, how can we buy this screw for less money, you start asking a much deeper question. What does this screw actually do? Well, its function is to hold 2 pieces of metal together. So could a clip do that? Or maybe a weld? Or what if we change the design so we don't need a screw at all? That's the core of value analysis, finding the same or even better performance for less money. And that brings us to the top of the mountain, the absolute pinnacle of procurement. This is the point where it stops being just a support function and becomes a core piece of a company's competitive strategy. This is what it means to achieve world-class status. See, when you get to this level, a good price and good quality, that's not the goal. That's the bare minimum. It's just the price of entry to even be in the game. World-class procurement is about constantly pushing your suppliers to innovate, hunting down every single bit of waste in the supply chain, and managing those key relationships with incredible skill. It becomes a never-ending quest for excellence. You know, this quote from Saunders just nails it. It perfectly captures the whole idea. It reminds us that at the end of the day, a company is fundamentally only as good as the network of suppliers it depends on. To be the best, you have to work with the best, and you have to manage that network with world-class skill. So, what have we really learned today? That behind every single price tag, there's a hidden story. A story of risk, of opportunity, and for those who know how to read it, a roadmap to a huge competitive advantage. The next time you see any product on a shelf, just think about the incredible strategic journey it took to get there. Thanks for watching The Explainer.